So yeah, I think we up here, we live, everybody we here. Want to ask y'all a couple questions, man. Should the wife work outside of the house? Can a husband be a stay-at-home dad? And what is the best way to raise them children? Those are all questions and all things we're gonna talk about on this episode of the Man to Man podcast. My name is James. This is your other host, Raph. We are in here today talking about these tough questions. These are three things that you need to be talking about before you get married. Combined, y'all, we have over 20 years of marriage experience, and also combined, we have over 10 years of how to raise them children. And so today we're going to dive into those things, man. This is all part of our series titled Things You Need to Know Before You Get Married, where our focus is to help young men, whether they're about to get married or maybe in the first couple of years of marriage, strike up some conversations with their wife or with their future wife to talk about some things that are pretty important to talk about things that can cause a lot of issues if they just come up or it hasn't been decided, it hasn't been talked about. And so that's going to be our focus for today. Because, man, here's the thing, man. You like the divorce rate is up.
It's
Like
high.
it's high. I don't know the statistic, man, but I know like the first year to 5 years of marriage it's tough. It's tough and it's hard. And if you have not talked about some of the things that we've talked about over the last couple of videos, it's gonna be tough for you. It's gonna
Yeah.
be tough for you. So more specifically, our conversations are gonna be guided by these three things today. We're gonna talk about working situations in the house. The man, the woman, who's gonna work? Are both of you gonna work? One of you gonna work? Is one of you gonna stay at home? Who stays at home? Does the husband stay at home? Is that okay? Is the wife stay at home? Is that okay? How are y'all gonna navigate through that? And then we're also gonna talk about responsibilities around the house, man, because to live with somebody, man, is to have a lot of conversations and a lot of um guided discussions, right?
Good. That's good. Yeah.
Intense fellowship is what my pastor calls over things like toilet paper. Like which
Mm,
way should it be? Which way should it roll? Who's gonna clean the toilets, right?
mm.
Who's gonna wash the dishes? Who's gonna do the laundry and all that kind of stuff? And then also, like I said earlier, we're gonna talk about how to raise those kids, man. And
Cheering.
dude, speaking of cheering, man, how you doing? I see you got baby girl wrapped up,
I keep one on me.
over there. Keep
Keep
one
one
on.
on me. Yeah. We here, man. Wifey had somewhere to be, and she said, "You got the duties." So
Yep.
I'm a stay at home dad right now. It's a perfect topic for us to talk
There we
about.
go. There we
I'm
go,
in the
man.
middle of
Right
it.
in the middle of it, man.
Yeah.
And dude, y'all. So again, thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of the Man to Man podcast. We're here, we're live, and we got plans to go through this series, probably for the next couple of weeks, man. I think we're gonna do some catch-up episodes. We missed a couple of weeks with Easter. We both work at churches, and he obviously had a brand new baby and all that kind of stuff, man. So some things fell through the cracks, but we back. So make sure that you are subscribed if you're on YouTube. Make sure you're following the group if you're on Facebook, because we plan to do some catch-up episodes. So probably about the next month or so, we'll probably hit it every week if our wives allow us to, right? If we had a conversation with our wives, because I don't think did you talk to your wife about it before
Nah,
we
it
said it?
wasn't
Well,
even
there it is.
wasn't even a
There it is.
conversation.
That's part of the conversation right there for the next
Uh,
month or so, and hopefully in the near future, bro, we
yeah,
all be in the same room.
same
So
room.
y'all stay tuned for that.
If the Lord say the same.
If the Lord said the same, Raph plans to be in Hattiesburg, H-Town, the other H-Town.
Yeah.
And then from H-Town to H-Town. I guess that's how it
From
will work, huh?
H-Town to H-Town. Yep.
And he'll be in the studio. We got
Yeah.
studio here, almost got everything done. The camera angle has to stay right here so that y'all don't see the mess around here. But we almost got the studio done. But by the time he get here, it's gonna be noise. We're gonna
Yes,
get it
sir.
rolling, man. So anyway, like I said, we're excited about being here. Make sure you are connected. Go ahead and share this video with a friend as we are getting things kicked off and getting things started today. So, man, we're gonna jump right into it, man. We ain't playing no games today. Like literally, we're not playing any games because I did not come up with one. But we have these three subjects we're gonna talk about: responsibilities around the house. Excuse me. working situation. These are all a part of a conversation that a man and a wife, a man and a woman need to have before they get married. We spoke a couple of episodes ago that my wife and I, we went through a lot of different questions and a lot of different scenarios and a lot of different things that I believed helped us to last for going on 13 years now. We had our rough patches, but there was always communication for certain things, man. So, dude, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about work situations. I know there could be, I don't know if there's much of a debate in this day and time, but as far as the wife working, the husband working, man, um, what are some things you think that a young man needs to be talking about with his girl or with his fiance or future wife before they jump into this marriage thing and start their careers?
Yeah, they definitely need to be talking about work, especially especially for the man. Like, hey, what's your situation look like? What are we doing? You working? Are you a good worker? Are you lazy? These are things that you don't want to find out once you get married. Like this joker, all he do is play games. He don't never be at work, never want to be at work, always calling in, always acting sick, never want to do stuff at the crib.
Yeah,
All these things are really important to know on the front end. But I think even for the wife, because you have some women who miss independent and, hey, I just want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a boss. I really didn't need a man, but, we ended up together somehow. But I still want to be all the things. I still want to do all the things. I have the dreams. And I think, especially within Christian culture, I think you tend to have this reality where the wife is a homemaker and she's not working, she's taking care of the kids. People, they point to scripture to say that the wife should be caring for the children. And, you have this idea that that's the only way that it should look. And in our society, we've learned that, that's not quite the case.
yeah,
And so having those conversations, though, like, how did you grow up? What's your idea of what a wife is supposed to look like and what a wife is supposed to do? Is she supposed to work? Is she not? What do you expect? Because I mean, if we talk about tension in marriages, I think that's one thing that leads to a lot of tension. It's like, hey, I was expecting you to do all of these things, and the wife
yeah.
is like, you want me to do all these things and work? That's not going.
Like,
Yeah, I was expecting
what you
you.
gonna do?
Yeah, once you work that 9 to 5, I
Right.
expect you to come home, cook, clean, do all the things, and she's looking like, no, this ain't gonna work, Joker. We're gonna have to figure some stuff out. But I think, yeah, that's that needed work because that's the tension that you'll run into. I've got friends now who are dealing with the same thing, and I'm just like, man, y'all didn't talk about this beforehand. Like, this seems like it would be one of the first conversations that we would have, because you talk about money. We've talked about money before. I think money starts to come into play, and all the things. So, without going too far ahead and hitting on some things that we're gonna talk about, I think those are some of my first thoughts. What about you?
Yeah, man, I think for sure it needs to be part of the conversation, man. How is the working situation going to be? Because you have to look at what kind of lifestyle you want, right?
Yeah,
Because you can have this two income mindset, right? Where you want the nice things, you want the nice house, you want the nice cars, you want the nice whatever, you want to pay for school, you want to go to private school. But that one income that you getting
yeah,
may not support that two income type of lifestyle that you have. And some people got it like that, man. Some people got them jobs, man. It's paying 100 plus K a year,
yeah,
or whatever. And it works, right? It works for the wife to stay home if she wants to. It works for her to be a homemaker. It works for her to take care of the kids. It works for her to do her thing. Um, but then you just have to be realistic about your situation,
yeah,
right? Maybe for a season you are, both working, right? And y'all both work for a certain amount of years to save up some money to pay for a house, cash, or pay for cars cash or something like that, so that y'all can, ball out later on in life.
yeah,
um and that may be a season that you can live through. But it just needs to be part of the conversation, I think.
yeah,
And I think it's different for everybody. I don't think biblically that there's at least not in my research, I haven't done any extensive research. There isn't anything that like says that the wife is sinning if she's working,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't say that, if thine wife is workething, then she is sinning. Like that's no.
Yeah.
But I think it does speak to stewardship. It does speak to being responsible for the things that we have and being realistic about those things, man.
Mm.
And so yeah, what else you got on that subject, man?
Yeah, I
Working.
mean, I think to that point, as far as scripture and what it, I guess, commands for women to do. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not sinful, like you said, for a wife to work. I think when we talk about couples who have kids, the responsibility for both, not just for the wife, but the responsibility for both, to live, to lead, to shape, all these things, to rear your children, like that is the call of God for you, for both of you. And I think if you're not doing that, then it's a problem. So just ensuring that you're doing all that you can, especially as parents, to be faithful to the call that the Lord is giving you with your kids. But even like if you don't have kids, like at the end of the day, loving your spouse
Right.
is job number one. And if you can get that right, it doesn't matter if you work or don't work. You are modeling the relationship between Christ and His church, and the beauty of the union that Christ has established between a man and a woman that cannot be separated. And so, yeah, those are some of the just initial thoughts, just thinking through it and saying, like, man, just be faithful, just love each other as
Right.
Christ loved church, just love each other like Christ loved you. um,
Right. Because you
yeah,
you could be at the house all day with your kids and not love on them, not pour into
raggedy,
them, and just be
raggedy.
sitting there and just
Yeah,
be just do like it's just a mindset. Like I said, it's something. One thing I know we talked about specifically, man, is when the family chooses for the man to stay home. I think naturally that becomes a controversial
yeah,
type of mindset. I
hmm,
think naturally you just like, well, dude, what you doing? Like, why
yeah.
you ain't out there working? Why ain't you
What's
out
up?
there catching the antelopes and dragging them in and bringing in the bacon and stuff like that, man? And so let's talk about that a little bit, man. What are we thinking? What are we saying about that?
Yeah, I mean, they say that a husband should be three things. A husband should be a priest, he should be a provider, and he should be a prophet. And when we look at those three different things, like provider is one of those things. And I think that what we typically tend to think when we say provider is breadwinner. And I would say that that reality isn't quite, exact. As far as providing, there's more that a husband can do than just how he provides financially. And so when we think about, how a husband is um, uh, connecting, how a husband is working, it might not necessarily equate to the husband being a breadwinner. And I just think that that's a reality for us that ultimately is something that we need to look at. Providing for the family, provision does not always equate to breadwinning, or just being the financial winner in the home at the end of the day. So, I mean, I think the husband has a responsibility there. But what does that provision look like is what I'm going to ask. And I think it can look more than just the money that he brings in. And we look at that with our relationship with the Lord. The Lord doesn't just provide us the cash or the means to be able to pay our bills,
Yeah.
but there are multiple ways in which we experience the provision of God from our Father, right? From the head, from the husband, per se, if you want to use that language. And I think it's the same for the husband. And I think that the husband shouldn't just be just kind of placed in this one category of saying, hey, if you're not doing this one thing fully, or leading as far as like being the breadwinner, then you're not being a faithful husband. I would say, no, that's not right. We need to further define and clarify. And I think if all he's doing, all you want him to do is to provide money, that would be a shallow marriage and shallow relationship, because there's more than just financial means that the husband is called to provide for the family to be healthy, for the family to be spiritually equipped, and all the things that God calls us to. And the reality of life for every believer that knows is that it's fading. And so the money that you make is fading. And at the end of your life, people not going to be saying, or hopefully they're not going to be saying, oh, he made a lot of money, but he
Yeah.
was an absent father. Oh, he
Right.
made a lot of money, but he wasn't spiritually leading the home. Oh, he made a lot of. You're like, this joker trash. Like,
Right.
hopefully they're saying, that hey, he provided in so many other areas and ways, and this is what makes him a
Yeah.
man. But yeah,
Yeah. And I think it goes to what we talked about before plenty on this episode. I mean, on this podcast, is that as a man, your responsibility is to lead your family, lead your wife, um, in a way that honors God. And that does
yeah,
not mean money,
yeah,
right? Because I mean, honestly, man, like you just that's just not, it's not fair. It's not fair to say that the person who makes the most money is the leader, right?
yeah, yeah,
I would even go further and say that's not biblical, right?
yeah,
Because God called us to be the men, called us as dads, as husbands, to be the leaders of the house, right?
yeah,
He didn't say, "I be the leader of the house and make sure that you make 100K a year," right? "I be the leader of the house and make sure that you make more than your wife." Now, if you ain't making more than your wife, then you're not a leader, right? That's not what he said. But I think as far as whether you're stay-at-home dad, whether your income is lower because maybe you have a lower education than your wife, right? And she grinded it out and she wanted a certain type of career, and y'all agreed to that, and she banking, right?
yeah,
But you just, I mean, you have your simple job that you have, and you good at what you do, but you love your family, you
yeah,
provide for them, you lead them in devotions, you make sure they go to church, you love your wife,
yeah,
like she is a queen, like that's your goal, right?
yeah,
Whether you
yeah.
staying home or whether you out there every day working 12 hours a day, right? Working 80 hours a week or something crazy like that, right? Your responsibility is to take care of your family and take care of all that kind of stuff, man. So
Yeah.
I was
Phew. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You hitting on something, because I think, if we believe, and I was kind of hitting on this earlier, but if we believe that providing is just, making money, and you spend all of your time doing that, and you spend none of your time actually in the home, leading the home, you are not doing your job. And I think just society has told us that the man, I mean, especially if you're on social media for any amount of time, you see all these money chasers, and it's like, hey, you want to make as much money as soon as possible, as long, like, you don't want to die broke. And it's
right.
like, but if me not being rich is the end goal, that I miss out on so many other things. I would rather be with just enough
Yeah.
and be able to provide for my family in other ways. So the provide question is like, what are we saying when we say provide? Are we saying that he's doing this, or are we saying that there are multiple ways in which he's showing up in the home? And I think, man, we just got to get that. We got to get that right. Too many people are living these shallow relationships, bro.
Yeah. And I think the wrong question to ask is the question: should a man be a stay-at-home dad? Should the man stay at home or go to work? That's the wrong question to ask. The right question to ask is he going to lead his family well? Is he going to
Come
provide
on.
for them well
Come on.
in a way that's honoring to God, whether
Mm.
he makes a lot of money or not? Right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we've seen it. We've seen it in society. We've seen it in movies. We've seen it in real life where you got these kids who got, the freshest pair of Jordans. They got PlayStation 5s, Xbox Series X's, and all these nice clothes. And their wife drives a nice car and all this kind of stuff. But he trash, right? He
Let it
out there
go.
with 5 different women,
Yeah.
he barely show up to the recitals and baseball games, and that's just, a stereotypical type of thing. I know that's not just one person, but generally we see that that's not the goal, right? Because you make a
Yeah.
lot of money. It's your goal is to love your wife and to love your family and to honor God in that, man. So yeah. So I think that's good, man. So working situations, anything else on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, Well, you hit it on the nail right there. I think the way to ask the question is, is he leading the home?
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
and
pretty,
I guess one thing I want to go back to, man, kind of touch on this, man. You talked about that individual woman, right? That woman who comes into this relationship and does it from the world standards, doesn't really need a man,
yeah,
right? But she still chooses to get married. Man, let's dive into that a little bit more
yeah,
because it's a lot of women out there, man, who are killing it. They're
yeah,
doing stuff, make more money than I'll ever make in my life, right? you know,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
let's touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, bro, the main thing I think for that situation is men have to get rid of their ego. Like I think that's
Boy,
the thing. Like we are ego driven and we want to be seen away. There's power that we want, and I think those type of relationships, I think the Lord uses those relationships to humble certain men.
yeah,
And I know a few guys who, they have wives like that, and that's the testament of what they say. Like, man, and allowing my wife to be who she is actually makes me better.
right,
And if I don't see that, then I miss out on the ways in which Christ is desiring to make me more like himself so that I bear much fruit. And I think, obviously, we have to, what does leadership look like? If we look at Jesus and we look at the way in which he led, he was a servant leader, and he was the last. He wasn't the first. He was lowly in the way in which he lived his life, and he allowed others opportunities to use their gifts and abilities despite him being God.
right,
Like that's the reality for us as Christians. It's like God could very well be like, hey, I've got this mission and I'm going to complete it. In some ways,
right,
he's already done that through Jesus.
right.
But the beautiful thing is now, as Christians, we get to join him in his mission and making his name known. And we have the privilege of doing that. Like, he doesn't need us, but he desires to use us. And we have an opportunity to be used by God. And I think the beauty can also be shown in marriage. We are much better when we allow our spouses to be who they are, and not trying to keep them for the sake of an image.
Mm,
And I think, like we were talking about finances, like, before, like who's budgeting? Maybe your wife is better at numbers and budgeting, and your butt just need to sit down and let her do her thing. You know what I
right,
mean? Let her
exactly,
work, let her go
exactly.
in, and you do your part, whatever that might be. But talking through those things, having that clarity, like I think that's really the main thing. Like, let's bring clarity to our marriage, to our relationship. What are the things that you bring that are strengths? What are the things that I bring that are strengths? Where are the weaknesses, and how can we grow together? We're together, we're one.
Right.
And I think realizing that too, like the person who is the head.
Mhm.
Okay, so obviously we've got the order, and that's what we need to look at. Like, God is the head, and he has placed the man in charge of the family, and the wife submits to the husband, but only as he submits to God.
God.
So we got to come back to this divine fact. We got to come back to God and see, hey, he's the one that's leading this charge. He's the image. He's the one that we're pointing to. He's the one that we want to be like. He's the one who gets the glory and all the honor, not me. So if your wifey is killing it, your wifey is killing it, but God is even more. And God should be
Yeah.
on center stage. And so y'all
Yeah,
lift that
man.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I think, man, I've heard it said before. I can't remember where I've had this conversation. I've had it multiple times, man, with some significant men in my life.
Yeah.
But the gist of those conversations combined together, if I can, is that a strong, independent wife, a strong personality, a strong person, whatever woman, she will still follow a man if he is following God.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Man.
Whether he is out there and you know has a big personality, is charismatic, or whether he's meek, calm, soft spoken type of dude, it don't matter, man. If he's following God and she truly is a woman who not just submitted to her husband, who's submitted to God first,
Yeah.
she's gonna submit to him because she was like, okay, I can trust that you're following God, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
trust the God in you, and I trust that, you know, especially if she making more money, especially if she got more influence and all this kind of stuff. I can trust this with
Yeah.
you because I know that you are following God, man.
Yeah.
There's a couple here at our church. They were on a mission trip. They went to like Africa or something like that on one of the mission trips, and the wife is like she the lady, right?
Yeah.
She's out there. She's done significant stuff in the community. She's done stuff for years. Very well spoken. Very just great personality and just out there. And the husband, he ain't like that. He ain't like that. He's super chill, one of the coolest dudes you ever meet in your life, man.
Introverted. Yeah.
But he ain't got to be in front of nobody. He'll speak if he needs to. Like, she's a great like teacher. She's a great speaker. And homeboy's just like, man, I'm here. I'm just
Yeah.
loving life, right? And
Yeah.
he's good at what he does, man. But they were leading this session together in this community. I can't remember where in Africa, but it was a whole bunch of pastors or leaders, Christian leaders, and he was just simply leading this conversation. And she was, from our standards outside looking in, she was the one leading the conversation, right? She was the big personality. She was the one that had all the statistics and all the education and had all the details. So she's presenting this, and he gets up and he, basically just praises her and just lifts her up and gives his spiel and gives his opinion on this.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about relationships and stuff like this. And at the end of the session, man, the African men who were there, like, they honored him.
Wow. Yeah.
Like over her, because he was like, man, we've never seen this before.
Yeah.
We've never seen a man who had a woman who was so strong, who had such a strong personality. We've never seen a man lift up a woman like that before.
Wow.
We've never seen that before. Dude, you taught us way more than the whole session even taught without even talking about it, right?
Yep.
They was talking about relationships, they was talking about something else and probably like money. And it was like, man, you taught us how to treat your wife.
Wow.
Right? You taught us how to love our wives and to lift them up and to put an exclamation mark on their talents and their skills. Man, we never seen that before, man. We love it.
Yeah.
And he was like, huh? What? He's like, that's
Wasn't
not even
even
what
trying.
the session was about.
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
it was like, man, we see that, man. We see that, man. And I think that's something that we as men, we can swallow our pride and know that, hey, if our wives are who they are, let them be who they are. And it should not take away anything. If you have your confidence, you have your security in who you are, who God made you to be, it ain't gonna take away, man, anything from you. It's gonna add to it.
Man,
y'all gonna be a power couple, man.
That's it. I mean, it makes me think that the strongest man in the room is not the man that feels as if he has to display his strength. It's the man who has the strength and feels like I don't have to display it. It's the comparison between a lion and a chihuahua. You know what I mean? Like a lion ain't gotta do all the things for you to know that it's a lion, and a chihuahua barks crazy, like loud, and like see me, and we already know. And you don't know me. I'm gonna bite them ankles. but we already know if we had to compare the two, if we had to pick one or the other. And I think men, they can do a good job. And bro, I love that story, because I think, so many men, they embarrass their wives. They, pull down their wives. There's so many things that we do because of this image that we want. And it's not lifting up. It's not building. It's not it's not love. It's selfish. And let's just be honest, man. Like, we want to be the center. We want to be the king. We want to be the God. And there's only one room for that. There's only one space for that. There's only one chair and one person who can fill that chair. And at the end of the day, if we can both come as the husband and wife and say, it doesn't matter which one of us seems to be the strongest in this relationship. Strength doesn't come from us. It comes from God.
Right.
And so let us place the glory. Let us place the attention. Let us place the focus, not on ourselves, but on God. And if I can be, confident and comfortable with my wife leading in ways that I'm not, and we both can still say that God is the one that's given us the gifts, given us the talents, that's strengthening us to do the work, we straight. Like, I don't need to be in the way in which the world desires for me to lead or to be in the home without like God is the leader of this home.
Right.
Man, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
man.
That's
That's
good.
good, man.
Yeah.
That's good, man. I forgot. I need to make sure we're looking at some comments over here. I don't know what this comment was left. Amen. Praise God. Hey, mom, how are you doing? Then pops here. So he says right. He talks about the. I'm pretty sure he talked about this. If not on the last episode, the first episode actually of the Man to Man podcast. My father, he says, I gave my wife the checkbook in 1986.
Wow.
And that was the best thing he ever did, man. My dad, man, he would be okay with me sharing the story, man. He would write checks. He thought it was just free money, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't even understand budgeting like that. But my mom,
Yeah.
man, she been running the budget for almost 40 something 50 years in their whole relationship, man. So
Man,
that's good.
That's how some people feel credit cards is free money. It's like,
Yeah,
nah,
it's just free money.
that statement coming at the end of the month.
You gotta pay that back with interest.
With interest.
With that interest on it, man.
High interest.
That interest be, boy, it be coming like
yeah.
it be sneaky and stab you in the side. Like, oh Lord.
27.4. Lord.
What?
The interest more than the bill.
Bad back, Terry. Bad back. Man, so put it in reverse. Man, one thing that you did say, and then we'll move on. So last thing on this subject is really lifting your wife up, right?
Yeah.
Whether she is a business guru and she making millions of dollars every week, or she simply has made the choice to be at home, folding clothes and taking care of your babies. Man, you lift her up, right? If she can fold towels, she can fold towels, man. You just like, man, have you seen my wife fold towels before, bro?
Yeah.
She can make it into little bunny rabbits and everything, bro. It's good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Have you had my wife's spaghetti, bro? Spaghetti is a simple meal, but no, the way she makes it, man, it'll change your life. Like stuff like that. Like, did you see that deal she closed last week? Yeah, man, that was $1 million property, bro. She out there getting it, bro. It's good.
Yeah.
And so, like, lifting her up, being intentional with doing that, man. My pastor talks about it all the time. He said, naturally, like you said, man, we will crack jokes about her cooking. We'll crack jokes about, man, she'll never clean. And it's like, ha ha ha, funny, guy talk, but it tears her down, man.
Tears it down. Yeah.
Don't nobody want to hear that. Everybody loves to be praised. Everybody loves to be lifted up. So,
and you said something though that I think is really good too. Like when we do lift our wives up, I think we should get into the practice of, even if it's something that they may not be doing well or perfectly or may not be doing at all, like going through the practice of, like, when you see something, like just praising it and going out of you. And I think it's like you praise what you want to see, and I think that's the best encouragement is, when my wife tells me, I told you to do this, you didn't do this, and she starts griping and complaining, I'm a little less likely, I should be either way, to do it, but I'm a little less likely to do it because but if she's like, sweetie, I saw you were washing those dishes, and it was just the way that you were washing them that just made me feel, and I just love when she do that, I'm like, oh, so you like that?
You like that?
Hey,
you like that?
Hey, wax on, wax off. That what you say?
It's not a wrist action.
Hey, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that again. I got you. And I think that bro, that brings intimacy and relationship, and I think that it just helps. It helps build healthy marriages when you get into that practice of doing that. Like, instead of complaining about something, like, let me find something to praise. And there's always something to praise. And even if there's not anything to praise, let me just praise my wife because she is a gift. Let's just say it doesn't matter if she came packaged the way that I wanted her to be packaged, have all the things. She is a gift, and let me cherish her in that way. And I think that, marriages are just going to be that much stronger. I know we're kind of getting outside of what the content of the topic was, but I think that men, man, as you prepare for marriage, let's lift your wife up.
Lift her up, man. Cool, man. So we talked about working situations. We talked about expectations as far as work, man. Let's talk about expectations around the house. We don't have to spend too much time on this.
We talking about washing dishes,
raising kids, man. We were just talking about washing dishes and stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
I I know this is not a super spiritual thing. This is very practical stuff, right? But I
Yeah.
think these conversations that my wife and I had when we were dating were probably the most significant conversations that made a difference when we actually got married, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole who gonna do what, you know, expectations, like we knew that when we finally got married and moved in,
Yeah.
it was just like, all right, we knew the plan. You get to it. You folding the clothes today. You do that. You do this. You do that. And as we've went through the years, stuff has adjusted. And you know, my main responsibility is to wash the dishes. Like that's my thing. I hate doing it. I
Yeah.
hate doing it, but it's my responsibility, right? And every once in a while, she do the dishes, right? And
Yep.
it's cool. Right? I'm just
Yep.
like, I ain't like, girl, you ain't supposed to be doing this. I ain't supposed to do none of your chores. Don't be
Go
doing my
ahead.
chores. You do that. No, I'll be like, thank you, baby. I appreciate
Yeah.
that, man. When I come up in there and see that the dishwasher's unloaded, bro, they do something to me. Do something to my soul, bro. I pulled that dishwasher up. I said, oh, no, she didn't.
Oh
What?
man.
Watch out, girl. you know, but
Oh man.
I think it's important to have those practical things, like even talking about stuff like how you like your toothpaste stored, how you like the toilet paper on the thing. Like it's
Yeah.
silly stuff, but that people really get mad about that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
they really fight about that kind of stuff, man. So what do you say about that kind of stuff, man?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in a season now where, we had certain roles and things that, we both did. And then she got pregnant and she got really pregnant and was just like, I can't even move, baby. I'm gonna need you to do everything. And so it was a month or two, felt like forever of just anything. Like, I mean, I was, cooking, cleaning, washing. And I mean, it wasn't obviously like my wife, but it was like, hey, this is a different season. And I think even having that conversation or living into those realities, because like, you go through the phase of not having kids and, y'all have y'all's responsibilities or your roles or your things that you do around the house. And then life changes. You either get a job or both of you are working or you get a child. And then those roles change even more. And you go from having one child to multiple children.
Yeah,
Like that's a thing. Like some people got one kid and they like, oh, this is hard. Imagine having four. It's like it's different. And you gotta be willing to adjust and have those healthy conversations of, okay, like you told me that you do not have the ability right now in this season to do anything. Like you're sick, you're tired, you're ready to be pregnant. I mean, ready to have this baby, not ready to be pregnant. You are pregnant, and and you having all these labor pains, and so it's like, okay, like I know, this is the thing. And so here's something that like I was recently telling some guys that I was struggling with, because it was like, man, I just feel like I'm doing everything. And at the time, I wasn't doing everything, but I was doing more than what I was used to. And I was like, man, I can't wait until my wife has this child because then we're going to go back to normal. And the Lord was just convicting me in that moment and saying, no, like my call for you as the husband is to die to yourself, to
right.
sacrifice for your family. So
Mm.
any like level of comfort that you're trying to obtain or get, like that's
Wow.
not what I've called you to.
Mm.
So even if things change after she has this baby, I'm still calling you to die in the way that you're feeling death right now. And
Right.
so that was, bro, that was something where I was just like, man, okay, Lord, I hear you. It's loud and clear. You got me. I realized my call as a
I
husband,
got you, baby.
and these roles that you called me to. Like, yeah, we've got our roles and everything, but at the end of the day, I've got to give my life up.
Right.
And so all the comfort, like I got to die to self. And as you think about those roles, yeah, have your roles, but also know, if one night wifey ain't washing the clothes like she said she would, you had that conversation, but no, you got to die to self, and somebody need to wash them clothes.
Right.
Um, and
Right.
maybe it's you,
Yeah.
as the husband. And I think that's specifically to men. I want to call men up in a way in which I think too often, at least for me, when it's come to roles like this for myself. So I'm not saying that I got this down perfectly because I don't. And my wife will be the first to tell you I don't have it down. But I think that when the things aren't met or when the things aren't done, um, going ahead and doing it. Like when my wife doesn't do the thing that she said she would do,
Right.
instead of waiting on her to do it, let me
Mm.
serve her in this moment. Let me
Yeah.
use this as a moment to express the love of God to her and to shower her with love in ways. And my wife, she loves that. That's part of her love language. Like, hey, you do something for me, you give me words of affirmation. That's all you ain't gotta buy me nothing. I don't need the nicest purse. I don't need anything but this. And I'm like, all right, Lord, you're gonna have to help me because I hate doing that. But it's our call. Serve our
Yeah.
wives, but yeah.
Yeah. And we talk about it all the time, man. I think the underlining foundation of any biblical marriage is that the man is serving his family, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh golly, I hate it. I hate it sometimes, man, because it's just like it forces you to be the one to just make it okay, to make
Yeah.
it happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, she didn't do the dishes. Yes, she didn't wash the clothes. Yes, she didn't do what she said she was gonna do. Are you gonna sit around and fuss about it, cuss about it, fight about it?
Yeah.
Or are you just gonna either ignore it, let it go? Maybe she was planning to get to it later, or do you just do it? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you gotta figure that out, man. And like we've talked about um wives who may possibly take advantage of that, man. But if y'all are having that type of conversation, like, and y'all are two God honoring people, man, I think for the most part, like, I think y'all could talk about it. Be like, yo, if it becomes an issue, like, hey, you ain't did the dishes the last couple days. I mean, it's fine or whatever, I did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, you still trying to make yourself okay, right? Instead of
Yeah.
just doing it and just getting it over with. And like I said, man, I hate it sometimes because it's like, man, it's my responsibility. I want to be mad, right?
Yeah.
I want to fuss. I want to tell you that you ain't did what you did because that one time I didn't do my stuff, you tore into my behind. And
Yeah.
now I finally caught you not doing what you're supposed to do. And now I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you, no.
Yeah.
God says,
Yeah.
man, let it go. Go ahead, wash them
Man.
dishes. Go ahead, fold them clothes. Go ahead,
Hey,
sweep the floor. Go ahead. See
it
what happened when you do that.
it be those moments when the Lord reveals to us that he's not enough. When we don't get our way, when our wives have upset us, he reveals to us that, okay, I'm not enough for you to help you in this moment. I think, man, it's just the reality for men. Like, even as we think about the ways in which Christ, was stepped on, was done wrong. If this relationship, if this marriage is to reflect Christ in the church, we look at all the people that took advantage of him. And for us, like, I think we're worried about the wrong thing. We're like, if we do this, then our wife is going to take advantage of us. And it's like, nah, like, we're not even thinking about it right. Uh-oh. We got a crier. I think she's we're about to see. But yeah, all that to say, um, yeah, we need help. We
We
need
need
help
help.
to love Jesus. I need help right now, but I think she's ready to eat.
She said, I want to talk. Yeah.
Oh. Uh, uh,
Look
all
at
right.
her.
All right. All right. Yeah.
She said, Daddy got excited. She was like, wait a minute.
Just a little too much.
That's something,
I
man.
came ready.
Okay, ready.
Okay. Ooh, there
But
we go.
I really think, man, like I said, at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to serve. It's our
Yeah.
responsibility to love. It's our responsibility to be the one who steps up. And it's not even the whole be the big person, be the bigger person, man. It's to be the person God told you to be, right?
Yeah.
You're the servant. You're the one who does it, man.
Yeah.
And so, anything else on that, man? Do we
Nothing else.
want to dive into raising kids, man? Or I feel like
Hey,
that
let's
could be
do it.
oh,
Hey, I mean, it could be its own thing. I mean, I'm in the middle of it right now. So, I mean, it looks different in different seasons. And yeah, there's a responsibility there. It's interesting because today there's a guy who wrote the book Habits of the Household, and he's really helping out parents, but he's also helping out families to have certain rhythms, to be intentional about discipleship. And I think it's a great conversation, bro. I think it's one needed, and for me, is relevant for this season with this new edition.
Yeah, man. I think one thing we can if I think we can go into this for its own episode, but I think a few things that are necessary for raising kids, man. First is just love. I would say that loving your kids, they need to know that you love them no matter what they do, no matter what they've done, you love them. Another thing is discipline, right? I
Yeah,
think it has to be there. And I mean, people debate on what works best. I personally think it just depends on the kid, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
just
That's
really
real.
do. And like I said,
Yeah,
we got one, but I work with kids for a long time, and I know that you can put some in timeout and crush their whole worlds. And it's some kids you gotta about like call the whole SWAT team for just to get their attention, right? And
yeah,
so I think that love, discipline, and I think consistency. If those are three things we had to pick out as far as raising kids is love, discipline, and consistency. And consistency in itself, I think it can be in many different levels, right? I think
yeah,
consistency just covers it all, right? Because you need to consistently love them and consistently discipline them, and and be who say let your yes be yes and your no's be no's type of kind of deal when it comes to a lot of stuff, man.
yeah.
um but I think that's the main thing. I think that's the main three things right there. What do you say, man? Or some
Yeah, I mean, when I hear consistency, I hear presence.
mm,
And I think that that's one of the biggest things that you can give to a child that money can't give, that all the things as far as the stereotypes and how, you know, husbands should or fathers should, come to the scene, how fathers should do this and a father should, instill discipline. And I think that's true. But man, a father should be present. And I can't remember the stats of, how many, men find themselves incarcerated, and just the number of those men who were without fathers,
mhm,
and even for me, like, just thinking about my dad and the example that he modeled as far as his love for the Lord and his love for God's people. Like, I wouldn't be in the church if he didn't you know disciple us or
right,
discipline us in the way to lead us to love Jesus. And
mm,
I think that all those things are important. And I'm always going to say, like, the spiritual aspect is something that I think parents don't do enough of. Like, you're a youth pastor, it's like parents want to leave it on the youth pastor to do the
yeah,
work, or on the pastor, because
right,
that's the thing too. Because our church, we don't have the youth ministry, and it's like, Pastor, I need you to tell my baby about communion. Like, that was a conversation that I had recently, and I'm like, well, you take the Lord's Supper every Sunday. Tell your child what that means to you.
yeah,
Like, go to this. We literally say the scripture every Sunday.
yeah,
Um, like, go to the scripture where it's the Lord's Supper and Jesus is initiating communion in that moment. Like, what do we do? Is all those things are like responsibilities for the parents. And if we don't take that seriously, then the world is going to shape our children,
right,
and we're not going to be surprised. But I think too, like, as we think about that too, like, it's important to know that there has to be a level of trust in the Lord. Do the best that you can and trust God with the results, because your child isn't going to automatically love the Lord, isn't going to automatically do things right.
right,
Patience is something that you experience a lot of as a parent, and the Lord's going to grow you. That's the beauty. Like, marriage sanctifies you in some ways, but having kids, it's another layer of sanctification and dependence that. And so for men who are single, hey, don't just get ready for marriage. Hey, my guy, get ready for fatherhood, because it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks.
simple
And
time,
if you're established and ready, you're gonna be better off than a lot of us were. And that's the beauty of this podcast, is that we can teach the lessons that we've learned and the things that we're trying to implement to help you be that much better than we were where you are now. So, yeah.
yeah. And I think, like I said, if this podcast is for that young man out there getting ready to get married, and you're having this conversation with your future wife, the the first thing I think you need to understand, I think for all parents, right, especially younger parents, is that there's been studies shown. I've talked about this on the podcast before. There's been studies shown that parents have the most influence over their kids, whether for good or for bad.
Yeah.
Just flat out, right? And they said statistically, because we have more hours, I think it was like 3,000 hours a year. I don't even know if that math works out, but I think it's what it was compared to
Yeah.
like the 50 something hours. Like, for instance, I'm a youth pastor. I get a slew of kids every week for an hour, maybe
Oh
an
yeah.
hour and a half, right? And
Yeah.
so on a good year, not even counting holidays and breaks and all that kind of stuff, I probably only get 40, maybe 50 hours with them a year.
Wow.
That's including camps, that's including weekend retreats, that's including all that kind of stuff, compared to the thousands of hours that the parents just naturally have with them. So
Yeah.
there is no way that me as a youth pastor can fully develop your kid into the person they need to be without partnering with a
Without help.
parent,
Yeah.
right?
Without help. Yeah.
And so I think one thing that parents that we don't really fully understand is that we have that influence, right?
Yeah.
More than a coach, more than
Yep.
a teacher,
Yep.
more than a youth pastor, more than a pastor. Those parents have more influence over their kids than anybody, just
Yeah.
hands down. And if we aren't careful, we can push everything off to somebody else taking care of our kids and us not taking responsibilities like we should, right? And
Yep.
like I said, I'm 5 years in this thing, man. And like, I love that my baby girl go to school because I'm not that great of a teacher. I
Yeah.
love that she learns things from other people, but at the end of the day, when it comes to her spiritual life,
Come
like
on.
that's my responsibility, right?
Yep. Yep.
That's me and my wife's responsibilities for her to be presented with the truth of the gospel and the
Hmm.
truth that God can change your life forever if you accept him and make him your own.
Come on.
Like, it's my responsibility for her to do that. Now, whether she accepts that or not, right? Whether
Yeah.
she gets that and embodies that and takes that, like, that's up to her, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's my responsibility to make sure that she has every single opportunity she can to know God and to love him and to make him real in her life.
Yeah.
It's my job to do that.
That's good.
And I think if I don't do anything else, and if I do that, I've done well. I think
Yeah.
so, right? Teach them about money, teach them about relationships, teach them about all that kind of stuff. That's good. At the foundation of it is that relationship with God, man. Everything is built off of that.
That's good, bro. That's it, man. You don't say
Yeah,
nothing else. That was a word right there.
yeah, man.
Responsible. Yeah.
Responsible, man. So yeah, man. I really ain't got too much more. You got anything else? I know baby girl, she ready to spend some time with daddy right
Yeah,
there.
she's ready to get burnt because she been killing some milk. Man, I think as we think about the husband and providing, and all the conversation, are you providing spiritually? You
Yeah.
know, uh, are you leading the family, in a way to direct them toward Christ and the ultimate hope? And I think as we talk about fatherhood, as we talk about leading the home, like those are the ways in which we really should show up. And
Mm,
if we honest, those aren't the ways that men are showing up. And
mm,
we are missing so much grace and finding ourselves in sin, literally, because we aren't the priest or the prophet in our home. We're not
mm,
declaring the words of God, and we are not engaging or living a life to be an example, a model, a mediator for our families. When was the last time you prayed for your kids?
mm,
When was the last time you prayed for your kids in front of your kids?
mm.
When was the last time you prayed for your wife? When was the last time y'all prayed together? You know what I mean? Those are
Right.
something like, it's like, I know the last time I went to work and I did this for you. We talk about I did this and that, and it's like, okay, but what did you really do
Wow.
that really had an eternal
Wow.
impact on your family? Like those are the
Wow.
things that you need to get busy doing.
Wow. That's it right there, man.
Yeah.
That's it right there, dude. So yeah, that's it for this episode of the Men to Men podcast, man. We have so much In store, I feel that God is trying to say to you, the men who are watching this, and to those of you who are watching this, man, share this video with a man
Yeah.
in your life. This
Yeah.
podcast is built for them. We're here to help men honor God in every single part of their lives. Y'all, and we got specifics coming up. We'll talk more about rearing kids. We'll talk more about loving your wife. We actually will have a series coming up pretty soon. We talk about love languages, and we'll go through the book
Oh, yeah.
talking about love languages and different
Yeah.
things like that. If you don't even know what that is, make sure you subscribe so you can
Yeah.
talk about that, man. Because once you get a hold of that,
Hey,
and have a good
the
understanding,
keys.
bro, that's the keys to so much in your marriage, man. I tell you
Nah.
that, sir.
You want the
But
brownies, know the
yeah,
love.
yes, sir. All right, man. Well, again, thank y'all for tuning in to this
Yeah.
episode of the Men to Men podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the replay, make sure that you're leaving comments and interacting below. And if you're on Facebook, make sure that you are part of the group so that you can be notified of all the stuff we have coming up. Other than that, man, y'all be good. Y'all be blessed. Have a good weekend. Peace.
Love y'all.
Yep.